Hello and welcome to the How to Speak Horse podcast. I'm your host Poppy Peach and I'm a young person who is deeply committed to learning all that I can learn from, with and about horses. I will be sharing everything that I'm discovering in real time in my lifelong dedication to being the kindest, most ethical and emotionally mature horse person that I can be. So join me as I expand every dimension of my understanding of how to speak horse. So this episode will be an introduction to who I am, what this podcast is about, and of course an introduction to Willow and Annie, because they are just as much part of this as I am. So the reason I'm doing this podcast, first off, is just because I really like the idea of documenting my process, where I'm at, what I'm doing, and I'm really in the middle of my journey and not at the end. I'm only 16 and I'm not a professional at all. I'm just a person with a couple of horses, and I'm just trying to do my best to kind of educate myself on how I want to do things in a way that just feels the best for them. And yeah, that's an ongoing and endless process, and I just felt like that was something that would be cool to share. So I think a lot of horse podcasts out there, and I absolutely love them, there are some amazing ones out there, they all have a lot of professionals who it kind of feels like, even if they're still learning and expanding their knowledge, which for me is a huge green flag in a professional, but it still feels like they've learned a lot, like they've done most of their learning and they kind of know stuff that they can then present in a certain way, which is so helpful, and I love learning from people like that. But it's also, I don't know, I guess it can feel a bit intimidating sometimes, and yeah, I was just like, oh, this is kind of a cool opportunity for me to talk about things that are going well in my process, things that I wouldn't repeat, or yeah, it's not going to be some finished project where I can, present you with some miracle that I can do with my horse and how I did it and how you can do it in 3 weeks or whatever. It's just going to be quite an informal thing where I chat about my ponies, really. But I also would love to do a bunch of collaborative episodes. Another podcast that is coming out alongside this one, if you want to listen to it, is with the absolutely amazing Cat Roy Stanley. She's so wonderful, and yeah, I would love if you listen to that as well. And yeah, so that would be really cool to do as well, to have that mix. So I'd also really like this to be a space for non-professionals as well to come and talk about their experience and their knowledge and their wisdom, and yeah, just be a platform for a really diverse mix of voices, because everyone has got something really valuable that we can all learn from. So who am I and what am I doing? So as you know, I'm Poppy Peach, and I'm just trying to have a nice time with horses, really, and help horses have a nice time with me, hopefully. I think a good way to kind of sum up my approach a little bit is, a while ago I kind of out of nowhere decided to write a bunch of oaths to Willow, which of course is now also to Annie, and yeah, I just thought I would read them out. I've called them my joyful commitments because I was going to write I solemnly swear, and I thought that sounds quite sad and quite serious, so I was like, okay, how can I change that? And I changed it to I joyfully commit. So here are my joyful commitments. So I joyfully commit to standing by you for life. I joyfully commit to honouring your voice and your choice. I joyfully commit to being humble in my knowledge and continually learning from you. I joyfully commit to creating space for you to thrive in. I joyfully commit to a relational partnership with you. I joyfully commit to authenticity and owning my mistakes. I joyfully commit to holding gratitude for all that you are and all that you bring to my life. I joyfully commit to bringing as much positivity to you as I can. I joyfully commit to loving you. So that is by no means exhaustive of everything I want to be and do for my horses, but yeah, that's the gist really. I don't particularly follow one approach specifically. There's loads of different approaches that I find really inspiring and interesting, and I try and just get the bits from all of them that feel like they fit my horses the most. So I very much follow a Lima approach. For people that don't know what that is, that stands for least intrusive, minimally aversive, and there are all sorts of other sort of words like consent-based and horse-led. Yeah. So my main kind of focuses around horses are nervous system, behaviour, ethology, all of those sorts of things I find really, really interesting, and just, yeah, who horses are and why they do what they do, why they feel how they feel, all of those things. And I'm really interested in the kind of the intricacies of the horse-human relationship and how it can be really good, you know, how I can be the best person that I can be for my horse, and so that it can be a partnership that they want to be in. Yeah, that just feels really good for them and safe and joyful and all of those things. So within that endeavour to be the best person I can be for my horse, I have got really into a lot of self-awareness and personal development stuff. I'm really interested in psychology and all of those things. And again, Kat, who's on the first collaborative episode, she is really the one that got me into all of that. So if you're also interested, please check out her work. She's amazing. Yeah, so I feel like all the self-development stuff, or, you know, whatever you want to call it, just really, in my experience, complements every aspect of all the horse things I'm learning, because it just frames them in a certain way. And there's so many things that I've learnt about the nervous system in an endeavour to regulate my own nervous system, and then that's hugely helpful for the horses, you know. I know that we will all have heard the sort of thing about don't let them know you're scared, because then they'll get scared too, which is often not actually that helpful because you can't really hide your emotions from a horse. But there's some truth in that, which is that they're highly sensitive, emotional beings, and yeah, the more regulated and aware of your own experience you are, the easier you're gonna be for them to be around. But I honestly just love learning about anything that I can about horses. I'm home educated, and that means that I just have a lot of time to give to either learning stuff directly from them. I really try and go to my horses with a kind of beginner's mind and a real openness, so that I can not get too attached to what I think I know and just learn from them. But I also spend a lot of time doing my own research. I'm in what feels like 101 amazing online courses, and yeah, I'm also autistic, and horses are totally my special interest, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically autistic people tend to have very, very hyper and kind of all-consuming interests. Not every autistic person does, but most of us do, and yeah, mine has ended up being horses, so I kind of get endless joy out of just dedicating my life to learning about them. So I'm very, very pleased that that is. Yeah, being autistic is not all sunshine and rainbows, and a lot of it is a total nightmare, but that is very, very wonderful, and I'm very, very pleased about it. So the last thing that I'll mention about my approach and what I'm doing with horses is that I've recently been dabbling into animal communication. And if you'd asked me what I thought of animal communication a couple of years ago, I would have said that it's a load of rubbish, it's highly unethical, because people are just making stuff up, putting words in the horse's mouth, and it's completely impossible, and yeah. And I will also put in that I do think it can be practiced really badly and can be highly unethical, and that's really important to acknowledge and keep in mind, because I'm sure there are people out there who are, you know, like in every single area of life, there's always people who are not, have not got the horse in mind and the horse's well-being, and they totally can put words in the horse's mouth. I want to put that in because animal communication is not the be-all and end-all, and it's not some... It's got complexities and nuances to it. Having said that, I had a communication session a while ago with Willow, with Shaylee Evans, who is a wonderful, wonderful person and communicator, and she was recommended by the equally wonderful Lockie Phillips, who you should definitely also check out. And I think had it come from pretty much anyone else at the time, I would have gone, thanks but no thanks. I'm not sure about that. But he's so sort of scientifically minded and just incredibly good at what he does. I thought, yeah, okay, let's give this a go. And Shaylee lives in America, and like we were over Zoom, we just sent her a photo of Willow and her name, and she could just say things that were incredibly accurate, that there's no way that she could have known, that were not only accurate but also very, very helpful. You know, it went from different things that we could be putting in her feed to ways that I could alter my training to make it be easier and make more sense to her. So because I'd had those sessions with her, I ended up getting quite a few sessions. When I found out that Shaylee actually teaches people how to do animal communication, it felt like a really cool thing to add into my toolkit. So partially the reason that I wanted to do it was because it seemed kind of magical, and I wanted to understand the process. If there, you know, is a process that is teachable and understandable, I was like, right, well, I want to know that. But also it just felt like a really good thing to be able to do with my horses, you know. It just felt like a helpful thing. So I did this workshop and it was really, really cool. It was amazing. And I've sort of taken that and run with it a little bit, and after the workshop she encourages that you practice with different animals. So I put a little post on, I keep mentioning Kat, but it was her wonderful online group, saying, you know, does anyone fancy letting me practice on their horse? And loads of people did, and it was really daunting at first because I'm just sat in my bedroom with a photo of a horse doing this thing, and then people just started coming back with really amazing feedback and just saying, yeah, no, that is my horse, you know, who you've never met, but yes, that is them. And the horses kept surprising me and doing different things and bringing different things forward, and I'm so grateful to have had that opportunity with that group, because I think that just gave me confidence that I wouldn't have otherwise had in animal communication as a process and my ability to do it. I love as well that I feel like it's often portrayed as something that either you can do or you can't do, and the people that can do it have been able to do it since birth, and it's some gift in you, and actually it's a learnable skill, and I think that's really, really cool. I'll do a whole podcast where I kind of explain it a bit and break down what I do and how I do it. But that's one other thing about my process, really. So last but by no means least, I've got to introduce Willow and Annie. So Willow has been in my life for just over 2 years now, which feels incredible. I can't believe I have had the privilege of knowing her that long. And Annie I have known for just over a month. So I got her when me and Willow moved to where we are now from. It was an absolutely lovely yard with the sweetest community. but an opportunity came up where I could move somewhere where Willow could live out 24/7 and I could walk there as opposed to having to be driven about half an hour each way every single day. And yeah, it just felt like a really good choice. You know, there's so much space there. I'm incredibly lucky to have found it, and all sorts of wonderful things. So as we were moving and there would be no horses there, Annie came into the mix. She is the last horse I would have expected. I thought I would get some sort of Dartmoor pony or cob type, something like that, something quite low maintenance that would do well being out in a field. And Annie is an 8-year-old chestnut thoroughbred, which I love. She was actually the first horse that I saw as soon as I started looking at horses to get, and I was like, oh no, I don't think she's the right horse, What I did with every horse that I was kind of thinking of getting was I did a little communication session with them, because of course on their advert it's got their name and their photo, and I did it with Annie, and I was just like, she's just the right horse. And yeah, so we went to go and see her, and then got her very recently, and her and Willow are just such an incredible pair. Like, I don't know how I managed to get so lucky with that, but they're really similar and really, really different, and their personalities just work together so well. So I should introduce Willow a little bit more. She's a 14-year-old Welsh D, and so she is the wisest horse I have ever known. She's also the most challenging horse, and made me completely rethink everything that I thought I knew to be true about horses when I met her, and I will be eternally grateful to her for that. She has been, by far the most difficult horse I have ever known, in the best way possible. She's just incredibly blunt, and it's amazing, you know, you always know exactly where you stand with her, even if that is the most uncomfortable thing in the world. And it's changed my life knowing her. Not only my horse life, but everything in my human life has really, So, just a little bit more about their personalities and how they interact. So Willow obviously is very wise, super gentle. She's quite maternal often, and very sort of protective. She's also got a real fierceness to her in a way that I just really respect. And yeah, she's just kind of got this depth of knowledge. And Annie is just this kind of, she's got this real playfulness and gentleness and kind of innocence about her, and she's super, super friendly, but she's also got the kind of slow-paced softness to her, which is why her and Willow just work so well together. And it just feels like their strengths and weaknesses, not that I really want to call anything weaknesses, but it just feels like they balance each other out so nicely. Willow tends to be a lot more internal, and it can actually take quite a lot to draw her personality out, and she's super introverted, which I can empathise with. I'm a total introvert myself, and it feels like Annie is already bringing a lot out, and she's getting a lot of confidence. Before we moved, Willow was she was funny about touch. We'd got to the point where she would kind of let me touch her, but it felt like she was tolerating it most of the time rather than enjoying it. And then since we've moved, she's been really into scratches and all over her body pretty much, apart from a few places that are still no-go. But it's incredible how quickly she's changed, actually. And then Willow can just really help sort of Annie when she gets a little bit ungrounded, or Annie can be a little bit sort of quick to react to things, and Willow is super sort of emotionally regulated and really good at kind of thinking things through and not just going on instinct all the time, and they just balance each other out so well. It's an absolute joy to be in relationship to them both. Yeah, I already feel like I'm just learning so much from both of them, and that's just going to continue. They're as much a part of this as I am, and they're just as responsible for everything that I'm doing. So yeah, that's where I'm going to wrap up the podcast. So if you want to get in touch at all, if you have any questions for me, anything you'd like to talk about, or if you even want to come on the podcast yourself, you can get in touch with me either like on my Instagram page, which is at howtospeakhorse, or you can email me on howtospeakhorse1@gmail.com. So thank you for listening this far. I will go now and hope you're having a lovely day, whatever you're doing.